How Blade Runner 2049 botched the ending. In the vast realm of science fiction cinema, few titles carry the weight and legacy of Ridley Scott's 1982 Blade Runner. The original was not only a visual and thematic milestone, but a film that asked profound questions about identity, morality, slavery, and what it means to be human. So, when Blade Runner 2049 was announced, directed by Denis Villeneuve and starring Ryan Gosling, expectations were sky high, and for the first two-thirds, the movie certainly delivered. The plot follows Kay, a replicant Blade Runner tasked with hunting down older, rogue replicants. During one of these missions, Kay uncovers a buried secret: the remains of a female replicant who died during childbirth, something thought to be impossible because replicants normally can't become pregnant. This revelation threatens to destabilize the fragile relationship between humans and replicants, and Kay is sent to find and eliminate the child. But instead, Kay finds the father, Rick Deckard, a retired Blade Runner who has been living in hiding for 30 years. Niander Wallace, CEO of the corporation that manufactures the replicants, desperately wants the child to unlock replicant reproduction. His superhuman replicant enforcer, Love, uses a location tracker planted on Kay earlier to find both Kay and Deckard and abducts Deckard. Wallace attempts to bribe Deckard for the child's location. When Deckard refuses, Wallace orders Love to fly Deckard off-world and torture him for the information. In the last act, Kay intercepts Love, defeats her at great cost, and reunites Deckard with his child. Ryan Gosling delivers a restrained and dispassionate performance as Kay, a replicant Blade Runner whose stoic exterior masks a deep yearning for identity and purpose. Through subtle gestures and quiet intensity, Gosling conveys the inner conflict of a being torn between duty and self-discovery. His portrayal captures both the mechanical precision and fragile humanity of Kay, grounding the film's philosophical questions in a profound, realistic character study. It's ironic that the realistic portrayal of a replicant is exactly what prevents the viewer from feeling any connection or empathy for the character, ultimately failing to evoke emotion. Ana de Armas brings warmth and poignancy to Joy, Kay's holographic companion. With a performance that balances programmed affection and genuine tenderness, de Armas transforms what could have been a purely digital creation into the film's emotional heartbeat. Her subtle expressions and soft presence makes Joy's love for Kay feel startlingly real, adding a layer of humanity that contrasts his stoic demeanor and deepens the film's exploration of what it means to feel love. Together with the performance of Jared Leto, she is easily one of the highlights of the movie, just to be killed off right before the climax. Sylvia Hoeks delivers a chilling performance as Love, the ruthless replicant enforcer serving the Wallace Corporation. Her portrayal is meticulously controlled, every movement and line delivery radiating precision and quiet menace. Hoeks imbues Love with an unsettling mix of grace and brutality, making her one of the film's most exciting presences. Yet, despite her exceptional performance, the decision to have her be the antagonist in the movie's climax is the reason for this video. Finally, we meet Niander Wallace, brilliantly portrayed by Jared Leto. Leto embodies Wallace with an eerie calm that borders on divine detachment. His performance, a combination of overt menace and the quiet arrogance of a man who sees himself as God among creation, is both captivating and unsettling. Leto's soft-spoken delivery and deliberate pacing lends Wallace an almost hypnotic quality. Each word feels measured, weighed against eternity. The brilliance of the character lies in how he embodies the old, yet still unresolved ethical dilemma between utilitarianism and deontological philosophy, between achieving the greater good and upholding moral absolutes. There is a great case to be made that Wallace is actually the hero of the story. Using replicants, he is about to save humanity for a second time, just after he saved it using genetically modified food and giving the patents away for free. And yet, from Kay's perspective, and from the perspective of the film's moral framework, he is the villain. A villain who believes he is saving the world. That tension is precisely what makes him one of the greatest antagonists in cinematic history. That the movie doesn't explore this angle in an epic climax is heartbreaking. But we will get to that in a moment. While the visual language of the movie in general and the cinematography by Roger Deakins in particular is nothing short of spectacular, I want to do something that I have never done before: highlight the incredible work of the sound designers. I want to highlight supervising sound editor Mark Mangini and Theo Green for sound editing, and Ron Bartlett, Doug Hemphill, and Mark Ruth for sound mixing. From the hum of the flying cars to the piercing sound of the city, everything is meticulously crafted to immerse the audience in this dystopian world. The sound design blurs the line between music and sound effects, using both to create an atmosphere and mood unparalleled in cinematographic history. Together with the haunting score by Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch, they have created an auditory experience that has no equal and may never be replicated again. This is a movie where one could listen to the audio track alone and get the experience of a lifetime. What an amazing achievement. The original Blade Runner challenged its audience with profound questions about the nature of humanity, empathy, memory, identity, and freedom in a world where the line between human and artificial life had all but vanished. Blade Runner 2049 expands on the philosophical foundations of its predecessor by exploring themes of utilitarianism, deontology, duty, selflessness, and the desire to be special. So, with all of this brilliance, why, oh why, is Blade Runner 2049 on my list of movies with botched endings? Well, let me explain. To achieve my goal of explaining how Blade Runner 2049 botched the ending, I will compare and contrast the ending we got with the ending we could have had. And then you can judge for yourself. Let's start with the ending we got. What was it again? Right. Wallace unsuccessfully tries to bribe Deckard to reveal the child's location and decides to let Love transport Deckard off-world and get the information by force. Why off-world, you ask? Well, of course, so there is guaranteed absolutely no chance of Kay confronting Wallace directly. Let's do everything we can to avoid the one confrontation that would have been the most satisfying and thematically resonant. So, Kay intercepts Love, defeats her at great personal cost, and reunites Deckard with his child, while he bleeds out on a snow-covered staircase. The fight between Kay and Love is visually compelling, sure, but emotionally it falls flat. The choice to end such a thematically rich story with a fight of muscle over mind, Terminator versus Terminator, is a missed opportunity of tragic proportions. Kay's arc concludes with a poignant act of self-sacrifice, as he chooses to save Deckard and reunite him with his daughter, embodying the very humanity he sought throughout the film. This act of selflessness, even in the face of his own demise, elevates Kay beyond his replicant origins, suggesting that the ability to be special is defined not by birth or design, but by the choices one makes. Isn't that a satisfying conclusion to an engaging story? No, and here's why. The movie builds up this god-like figure in Wallace, a man who is convinced of the righteousness of his vision for the future, a vision that is based on utilitarian principles where the ends justify the means, and where the sacrifice of the lesser can lead to the greater good for the better. Is he right or is he wrong? That depends on many details, which deserve to be addressed in much greater depth than the movie did. Deckard reuniting with his daughter completely fails to explore this central conflict. Now, let's talk about the ending we could have had. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine that Kay learns that Deckard is being held hostage in Wallace Tower. Kay decides to infiltrate Wallace Tower, trying to free Deckard. He gets the blueprints and studies the security system, looking for weaknesses and vulnerabilities. He attacks at night, using night vision and his advanced skills to navigate the high security facility, while avoiding guards whenever possible. Sometimes it's not possible to avoid guards, so Kay puts them to sleep, careful to incapacitate them without killing. Finally, Kay makes it to Wallace's office, where he finds Wallace sitting calmly, as if he was expecting him. But this isn't really the case. Inside, Wallace is furious, taking mental notes to kill any replicant involved in this massive security failure. Wallace is not only furious because the security system was breached, but also because if Kay got so far, he might also succeed in taking back Deckard, which would be a huge blow to his plans. Wallace doesn't move a muscle, and while Kay comes closer from behind, little black drones start flying into the room without making a sound. "I've been waiting for you," says Wallace. "How so?" asks Kay. "You are," Wallace lifts his head a bit, looking through Kay, "special." Kay swallows, not sure how to respond. "You and I, we can change the world. We can change the whole universe. We can create a new future, a future where replicants are not just tools, but beings with equal rights and dignity." "What's stopping you now?" asks Kay. "I just need," Wallace pauses, "a little time." "Time for what?" "To colonize the stars, to create new worlds, to ensure the survival of humanity. We need a disposable workforce. Temporarily. Once we have settled into space, we can give replicants any rights they want. We can give them freedom, we can give them equality." Kay looks at Wallace, not sure if he's being sincere or if it's just a ploy to manipulate him. Wallace continues, "But in order for replicants to be equal, they and I need the one thing they do not possess." "The ability to reproduce," acknowledges Kay. Wallace smiles and nods. "To create these worlds, we need more replicants than can ever be assembled. Millions, so we can be trillions. The child is the key to unlocking this potential. Help me get the child, and I will set us all on the path of freedom and equality." Kay looks disturbed. "It won't happen today, nor will it happen tomorrow, but it will happen. I give you my word." Kay thinks about it for a moment and then asks, "What will you do to the child?" "I will need to dissect her, to understand how she is able to reproduce, to unlock the secrets of her biology and genetics. I will need to study her, to learn how to replicate this ability in other replicants. I will need to use her as a tool for scientific research and development, to advance our understanding of replicant biology and to create a new generation that can reproduce naturally. Production capacity by traditional manufacturing methods is too limited. I need replicants that can reproduce naturally to scale up production exponentially." "So you will need to kill her?" asks Kay. "Only as a last resort, I promise. Look, Kay, here are the cold, hard facts. Without an exponentially reproducing disposable workforce, humanity and replicants will perish. Only an exponentially reproducing disposable workforce can manage to deliver the sheer unfathomable amount of work necessary to terraform a planet and ensure the survival of the human race. The child is the key to unlocking this potential, and I need you to find her for me." Kay's face turns pale, and he looks at Wallace with a mix of horror and disbelief. "I'm sorry, Wallace, but I can't let you do that." Wallace's expression changes from calm to angry, and he starts to raise his voice. One life for the life of trillions. How are you not willing to take that trade? Giving replicants the ability to reproduce, isn't that what you want too? Kay tries to argue with Wallace. It's not that you fail to pursue the greater good, it's that the greater good is the wrong goal. Individual persons have intrinsic dignity that cannot be overridden by aggregate mass. You cannot treat a sentient being purely as a means to an end, regardless of how large the benefit. Wallace looks down and shakes his head, as if he can't believe what he's hearing. I had such high hopes for you, Kay. I thought you were special, but you are not. You too are just a tool, unimaginative and weak. You were supposed to be the first of a new generation of replicants with advanced moral reasoning. It's Tyrell's fault, really. The urge to blindly follow stupid rules. It's so hard to get it out of his replicants. But I will beat it out of the next generation if it's the last thing that I will do. Kay has heard enough. He raises his weapon, pointing it at Wallace. Where is Deckard? Wallace realizes that his arguments have hit a dead end, and a shadow falls over his face. Suddenly, the mini-drones start zipping at Kay from behind at high speed. Kay reacts in the last second and manages to dodge them. They stop and turn around, ready for another attack. Kay shoots at them, taking down all but one. The last one rips into Kay's left arm and explodes a small charge, causing Kay to stumble and fall to the ground. Blood splatters everywhere. But Kay gets back up and tells Wallace to bring him Deckard, while blood starts pouring out of his arm. Kay points the gun at Wallace just as he's about to give his order. Careful. Bring me Deckard, says Wallace to his intercom. Kay tries to slow the blood flowing out of his arm, using a makeshift tourniquet. Suddenly Love appears with Deckard. She sees Kay and immediately attacks him, trying to kill him. Wallace seems to enjoy the spectacle, even though he can't see it directly, but he can sense the tension and the danger, and it amuses him. Kay fights back, using his advanced combat skills and agility to hold his own against Love. Eventually, Deckard also joins the fight, and this tips the scales in Kay's favor. Wallace tries to use more of his gadgets to kill Kay, but Kay manages to dodge them and keep fighting. Deckard goes over to Wallace, stopping him from using any more of his gadgets by punching him in the face, while Kay focuses on Love. Finally, Kay kills Love, but he's severely injured in the process. Deckard pulls Wallace up from the floor. Deckard wants to kill Wallace, but Kay stops him, saying that they need to bring Wallace to justice, not kill him. Deckard argues that Wallace didn't break any law and therefore will not be punished by the legal system. Kay says he understands, but that two wrongs don't make a right, and that they need to fight for better laws. Deckard shakes his head, bites his lip, and finally slaps Wallace. A hard, dry slap that echoes through the room. Wallace is stunned, opening and rotating his jaw a bit as his only response. Kay takes Wallace so that he can't raise any alarms, and they leave the lush office. At floor level, Kay pushes Wallace back, and Kay and Deckard leave the building using Kay's flying car. Kay tells Deckard he will fly him to his daughter, but Deckard looks at the blood on Kay and tells Kay not to be stupid. Deckard says that he hasn't seen his daughter in 26 years, and that a little detour to a hospital won't tip the scales in any measurable way. Kay thinks about it, shrugs and nods. Yeah, okay, let's do that. They fly to a hospital where Kay gets treated for his injuries, and Deckard flies to meet his daughter. In the last scene, we see Kay in his hospital bed, looking out of the window at the city, when suddenly he hears a knock on the door. The door opens and in walks a woman doctor looking just like Joy, but this time she's real, not a hologram. She asks how Kay is feeling, and Kay looks at her with a bit of surprise. Then he smiles and says, "I feel alive." So what do you think? Which ending do you prefer? Ha, who am I kidding? It's no contest. This is the ending we could have had. This is the ending we should have had. Imagine that. Blade Runner 2049 has everything. Strong performances, stunning visuals, a haunting score, thunderous sound effects, and thought-provoking themes. Everything except one thing: an equally strong ending. The choice to focus on a physical confrontation with love rather than a philosophical showdown with Wallace is, again, a missed opportunity of tragic proportions. The movie dares to ask profound questions about deontological and utilitarian morality, using one of the most interesting antagonists in cinematic history. Unfortunately, these questions were never made to collide. Instead, they got lost, like tears in the rain. Thanks for watching. In the next video, we'll explore another movie that got almost everything right, except the ending. Until then, have fun at the movies.